Hey, so I've been meaning to get this video out for a long time, and I finally decided to pull the trigger because someone on Reddit posted that they were looking for some assistance with item networks and item transference devices as well. And having pretty much just gotten that stuff kind of figured out for myself, I realized that I should probably get this video out sooner rather than later. So this goes out to the people that have been struggling with item networks in Frackin Universe. So the item network relies on a single item, the Item Transference Device, the ITD. So if I run over here, I've got admin mode on, so I don't have to worry about anything. But at your power station, you can make the Item Transference Device, and the Item Transference Device will move items between containers. This is the core of item networks. So this is really your bread and butter when you are looking to add the quality of life that item networks allows. And I'll tell you, I went probably, well, in this playthrough, I went over 40 hours without using item networks, and in my previous playthroughs, I never used them. And I'm realizing how much I missed out on. So let's start with how, or at least what the item transference device looks like. So when you place it, it's a single square. When you activate it, this is what you see. I've already set this up, but you see that you have input slots and output slots. You have a number of empty spaces that you can put any item you want in, and you have item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4, item 5, along with even split and slot split. So the important things here are that this is basically all of the functionality to modify how the item transference device is going to behave. This dictates the logic of the item transference device. So I have one chest here set up to an ITD here and an ITD here, along with two chests. And if I go into wiring mode, you can see I did, kind of this wonky wiring, but whatever. The wiring itself doesn't really matter. It's just that I have one ITD set up to one chest and another ITD. Well, I guess it's this one set up to this chest and this one here set up to this chest. Now let me talk you through how I've set this up. This one here, which connects to this chest, which you'll see I've named Not, Liquid, Block, and Craft. And this one, you'll see I have named Block, Liquid, Craft. So what's going to happen is this ITD, I've set up water, obsidian, tungsten bar, and tungsten ore. And you'll see here for item 1, 2, 3, and 4, I have changed this exact to category. So what this is going to mean is that the ITD is going to look at the items that I've placed in these slots. It's going to say, oh, you've got water. That is I actually think that's considered the block category here, right? Liquids go in here. Obsidian is the block category. Tungsten is the crafting material category, and tungsten ore is the crafting material category. You could also go by type. I went by category to make it a little bit broader, and that has worked pretty well. I haven't found too many situations where that's really bothered me, but you could go by type if you wanted to do a couple more chests. But basically, this one is set up to look for liquids, blocks, crafting materials, and ores, and at least those broad categories. So even water, the type is liquid. The category is like this block type thing. So the category is the tab it goes in your inventory, whereas the type is the type that's actually listed. Just to kind of get something set up quickly, I went here and I did the exact same thing with category, but I also put in INV logic. And what INV logic means is that's inverse logic. So here, in this one, it is looking for these item types. And in the other one, it is looking for everything but those item types. So what's going to happen is everything but those item types is going going to get dumped into this storage, not liquid, block, and craft. And everything that is those item types is going to get dumped into block, liquid, craft. So, as a test, let's dump some items in. So I dump in a drill, it's gone. I dump in a collar, it's gone. I dump in a reward bag, it's gone. I dump in an X stim, it's gone. I dump in a headpiece, it's gone. I dump in a shield, it's gone. I dump in a gun, it's gone. Now let's go to some blocks. I dump in lava, it's gone. I dump in liquid protosite, it's gone. Liquid nitrogen, it's gone. So these are the ITDs grabbing these items out of the chest. I dump in a small primitive chest, gone. I dump in a Venus depixel. Now let's do some of these other items. And I could even just start, you know, doing entire stacks, and it's going to pull all of those as well. And I will show you exactly what's going on. So I've basically dumped things from everything. So this one here is looking for these categories. Let's look at this chest. So notice that it has pulled liquids, ores, crafting materials, right? It has pulled exactly those types of items that we wanted into this, this crate, this storage chest. Similarly, anything that doesn't fit one of those categories gets dumped into the other chest. So I hope that that kind of shows you at least kind of the functionality. But you might be like, well, what else can I do with it? Because really all this is you teleport into your base, you dump your stuff, and it sorts it. And that's convenient, but I'll tell you that is not everything you can do with ITDs and with item networks. So let me show you the two other small things that I have done in the past couple of days in regards to item networks. And I'm actually going to turn the sound off on my game. Because this is going to go into, you know, I've got this music going here. So look here, I've got some wiring set up here. I've got a bunch of generators hooked up to sifters, and the sifters are, sure enough, hooked up to an item transference device. So here, I haven't put in any logic whatsoever, except input slots 1 and 2, and I hit the inverse logic here. So the green means it is inverting the logic. So why did I do that? Well, in sifters, your input slots 1 and 2 are actually your 2 powders, and I'll show you, right? That's input slot 1, that's input slot 2. So I've told my item transference device, don't grab the items out of slot 1 and 2. Right? Don't grab, because I inverted the logic, don't grab 1 and 2, excuse me, but grab everything else, right? 1 and 2 are the only things it's not grabbing. So what's going to happen when I put a different item into a different slot? I'll show you. It's gone. Where did it go? Well, I've got this ITD set up to dump into this chest. This is my craft dumpage chest, and look at that, there's the liquid nitrogen. So all of my sifters are set to not grab blocks 1 and 2. Because then I can leave those for the inputs, but as soon as something gets placed into input 3, which is going to be all of the other spaces, it's going to get dumped into this chest. So that basically tells the item network all of the outputs of the powder sifter get dumped into here. Without this logic, without this input slot 1 and 2 not being grabbed, your sifters won't work, because as soon as you put a powder in, the item network is going to grab it. The item network will take it and dump it into whatever item you've told it to dump into. Similarly, I've done something here on the right side with centrifuges and blast furnaces and industrial centrifuge. And this was mostly a test to determine, is there any functional difference between an industrial centrifuge and a lab centrifuge? And so far, I have not found one, but regardless. With 3 different crafting stations, how have I done this? Because you'll notice a lab centrifuge has 3 inputs and then a bunch of outputs. whereas the industrial centrifuge only has 2, and a blast furnace only has 1 input. Now you'll kind of see what I did here. I put dummy items in to slots 2 and 3 because the lab centrifuge has 3 inputs. I'm basically acting as if the blast furnace also has 3 inputs. And what I've said here on this item transference device is I've said don't touch inputs 1, 2, or 3. So don't grab anything from the first 3 slots. But same thing here, as soon as I put something, right, if I put something in the other input slots, nothing happens because these are slots 1, 2, and 3. But if I put something into slot 4, it gets grabbed. And if we go back to our chest, craft dumpage, the block of darkness does in fact get dumped in. Same thing with the blast furnace. It's got 1 input, and I've set up 2 of these kind of dummy inputs so that these don't get grabbed, because the reason I did that is you could use really any item, but I know that when I'm using a blast furnace, nothing is ever going to output a medical kit. So these medical kits are just kind of blocking these 2 squares, these 2 slots. So when the alien rocks do get crafted, they'll start dumping into this slot, and then this slot, and then this slot, and then this slot, etc. And the item transference device is looking for those other slots besides the first 3. So this is really convenient because it lets me just take items, dump them into my powder sifters, and then I never have to go back to each powder sifter. I never have to go back to my blast furnaces or my centrifuge. And everything will get dumped into this one chest. So, oh, and also I've got some extractors up here that are similarly linked. So these have 3 inputs, so they're just like the lab centrifuges. I don't have to do anything else there. And so everything gets dumped into the chest. So you might be saying, well, that's all well and good, but is there anything else that item networks can do? And yes, of course, they can do a ton of stuff. This is just the stuff that I've automated in the past 2 days. So let's look here. I've automated my entire farm. This took me a little longer, but it actually wound up being a little easier because I didn't really have to do any logic. All I've done is you'll see I've got bug grabber turrets, I've got farm beast harvesting turrets, and I've got plant harvesting turrets. So whenever a plant is ready to harvest, you can see that one just disappeared. The plant harvesting turret zaps it, and it drops its crafting materials. Then what happens is one of these items, the grabbers, grab the item. And you can see that if I activate a grabber, it has a little inventory. A grabber has an inventory. And the grabbers I've got hooked up to an item transference device. So basically everything gets picked. Oh, I got something because I'm too close to the... Oh, I got poop too. I'm too close to my animals right now. But all of the grabbers, or all of the turrets, harvest everything, and they drop into the world. Then the grabbers grab the items, but the grabbers are set up. Oh, look at that. You saw that the chili and the experience points disappeared because the item transference device snagged them and dumped them into this fridge. So if I go up and go to the fridge, we'll see that all of my plants and my animal products are getting dumped here. So if we wait a little bit, you'll see that some, oh, yep, you saw some plant fiber. But if we wait for something that doesn't stack, like a food item, something that could spoil, hopefully we don't have to wait too long. But just to show you proof of concept, this does work in real time. I'm hoping that my animals and everything are happy where they will generate their crafting materials. The plants go pretty quick too. Well, this video is already a little longer than I had expected, but well, whatever. I mean, I have seen other items go up in number, but really, you know, once we get like an egg or another food item, it will go here. I just saw the Mutavisk go up. Come on. I saw the berries go up. Oh boy. It's every time you want to show something like this, it does not want to cooperate. Well, okay, so I'll basically talk through what I did, and then we'll remember this last one is blank. So if this last one is filled up and we've got another line started, we will have grabbed some new items. So the way I've got this set up is everything dumps into an item transference device here. So all of my plant and animal products are getting grabbed by this item transference device because the grabbers have a range of like 8 or 12 or something like that. And so all of these items are getting grabbed by these grabbers. I've also got all of my apiaries, all of my bee farms hooked up to this item transference device right here. So this item transference device is basically set up the same way, except we've added that logic to not grab items 1, 2, and 3. The reason we've done that is because on the apiaries, we do not want... Oh, I've actually... I forgot. You actually scroll down. I've got them set to 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 because on the apiaries, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 are your bees and your frames, which you do not want to be taken. You only want the bee outputs to be taken by the item transference device. So, well, I guess I took everything from the bees. But basically the same thing there. When I breed my bees, everything will get taken from the bees by the... Actually, oh, the apiaries themselves are hooked directly up. Yep, you can do that because the apiaries actually have outputs, whereas plants and animals don't directly have outputs. You have to actually harvest those, have them grabbed by grabbers, and then sent to the item transference device. So let's double check and see that this has worked. And sure enough, what do you know? I've got another 2 eggs and milk. And so all of my farm stuff goes into refrigerated storage because meat will spoil, eggs will spoil, milk will spoil. A lot of other stuff won't spoil, but I figured that it made the most sense to have it all hooked up to refrigerated storage. It's got a whole bunch of space. We're not going to have to worry about that anytime soon. Whereas bee products, I don't think bees generate any food, or at least any spoilable food. So this is just regular old storage. I am realizing one thing I forgot to note is that you always need this little guy. And this is the other magic of the item network, is the storage bridge. So the storage bridge has to be placed by any container that you want to be used in the storage network. And you only have to do that for regular containers. Anything that already has inputs and outputs, you don't need to worry about. But a regular chest, if I can, I've got some space over here. A regular chest, there are no input or output slots. If we do something a little bit smaller, more regular, there are no input or output slots. So how do you deal with that? You use a storage bridge. And the storage bridge has to be placed in the lower left corner. Now, you'll see mousing over the storage bridge, it also basically counts as the crate. So now I've basically assigned this storage bridge to work on the crate. And that is how you get your containers to have inputs and outputs. So you can kind of see I've got my storage bridge hooked up to my little chest here. I've got a storage bridge here on the shipping crate, storage bridge here on the shipping crate, but again, just to reiterate, I do not have storage bridges on my sifters or my blast furnaces because they already have input and output slots. So it's not necessary. You don't need to do that because you just need the storage bridge in order to add that functionality. You want those input and output slots. So hopefully this gives you a little primer on how to use item networks and maybe gives you some ideas on how you can use item networks. Some other things you could do, you can actually you can dump all of your crafting materials into a chest, and if I really wanted to, I could have this chest automatically divvy things out to sifters and extraction devices, so that instead of having to do what I'm doing right now here, where I have to manually place items in the powder sifter, I could assign, an item transference device to each sifter and say, okay, this item transference device is only going to grab sand. And so any sand that I get is going to go into this powder sifter. And then any rough dirt I get is going to get transferred into this powder sifter. And any sulfuric dirt I get is going to get transferred into this powder sifter. So it's incredibly good for item automation, moving things around without having to do it yourself. And honestly, take the 45 minutes, the hour, the 2 hours, whatever it takes you to feel comfortable with this system, because in the long run it is going to save you an immense amount of time and a lot of headache. And since I have done this just with the automated farming and the automated kind of sifting and extracting where it gets dumped into a single chest, that has cut my time in my base down by about 50%. So that means I have more time to go out and either build in my base, or I can go out and be accumulating those crafting materials on other planets. So this is an incredibly powerful system. I really urge you to explore it. I urge you to get comfortable with it. And if you have any questions, leave a comment down below. I'm always happy to help, and I always want to get more people engaged in Frackin Universe. It is an amazing mod, and there are a lot of really fun things you can do. So, hope this was informative, and I'll see you next time.